Like only yesterday, Villa dropped the stinker of the season and we lost 2-0 to Manchester United, securing our spot in the Europa League, missing out on Champions League by 1 point. The summer has been and gone. The transfer window has been dreadful. Let's be completely fair here. We have managed to keep hold of a couple of important players, but we haven't signed anyone. And I think ultimately, now with the sale of Jacob Ramsey to tomorrow's opposition, Newcastle, the sale of Leon Bailey to Roma, multiple players leaving on loan, I would argue that we might be in a little bit of a weaker position than we were going into the season last year. But nonetheless, the season kicks off tomorrow against Newcastle United. We're going to be previewing that game, looking at our predicted lineup from yours truly, Newcastle's predicted lineup, all the injuries, the pre-season form, and ultimately giving you my thoughts, opinions, and prediction on this game. Now, a few people have been asking in the comments if I'm going to do an FPL league. I'm going to put it up there. That's the code. If you want to go and join the Rogers Reports Classic and compete against me, and for some reason my missus has got an FPL as well, if you want to compete against us in FPL and join the Rogers, big up the Rogers community, then go over, join that FPL link, and let's see how you guys can do against me. Hint, I'm awful at FPL, so you'll probably win. And if you are enjoying the content, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe down below, as we are on the route to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That's the goal. Can you help me out? We're going to be covering every single game, transfer, injury, all the good stuff about Villa will be covered on this channel. But let's have a look at our pre-season form compared with Newcastle's pre-season form. I know it's pre-season, but it can give you an idea, because this is two clubs that have had a mixed pre-season, and let's be fair, are being absolutely demolished by the Premier League's fair play, aka fair to the top 6 financial rules. As you can see up on the screen, when I say that Newcastle have had probably equally as dodgy of a pre-season as us, you will see they kicked it off with a 1-0 loss against Everton, then 4-0 against Carlisle. That's obviously their easy, warm-up game, although Villa's didn't go that well, let me tell you. But then Celtic beat them 4-0. They lost 3-2 to Arsenal, 1-0 to a K-League XI, so the Korean League XI of best players from that league, a 1-1 draw with Thomas Frank's Tottenham, a 2-2 draw with Espanyol before their final pre-season game on the 9th, so 6 days ago, came against Atletico Madrid at St James's Park, it would appear, and they lost 2-0. Now, you sort of counterbalance that if I skip through here with our pre-season, and yet the screenshot had to include that 2-0 loss against Manchester United for some reason, really annoying. But we lost 1-0 against Walsall, 3-1 against Hansa Rostock, drew 2-2 with Frankfurt, beat St Louis, drew with Nashville, won against Roma 4-0, probably our best result of the pre-season, before going and losing 3-1 to Marseille. That was a team that included a lot of youngsters, to be fair, before ending it on a high, something that they were not able to do against Atletico Madrid, although Atletico Madrid clearly the higher level of opposition, with a 2-0 win against Villarreal. But what was Newcastle United's team? I hear you screaming, you're asking. Let me skip back and I'll pop it up on the screen here. So this was their team against Atletico Madrid. Kieran Trippier and Sven Botman started in defence. Now, Botman is coming back from an injury, and he was hooked after 45 minutes as a precaution. They want to keep him fresh for the new season, so I don't know whether he'll get chucked straight in at the deep end against us. Lascelles and Livramento made up the back four with Nick Pope behind them. Elanga and Barnes out on the wing with Tonali, Joelinton, Ashby, and then Anthony Gordon, who came off with a rolled ankle, but apparently it's not that serious and he will be ready to start. And he is going to be their starting striker, because we all know about the Alexander Isak transfer saga. In terms of their bench, I'll chuck it up here and I can move around a little bit. Pretty much all of their youngsters on the bench there, so not too much to worry about. Obviously, they did play, like Villa did, the back-to-back games, one after the other, so a few notable absences from this team are explained by that. But what do we think Newcastle United will line up like tomorrow? Well, we're going to get into that in a little time, but first of all, we have to talk about Aston Villa, right? So let's get into it. This is the team I don't know, but I think Unai Emery might send out against Newcastle tomorrow. And I'll explain all of my decisions and talk a little bit about Aston Villa as we go along, right? Because that's what you guys have come to the channel for. So in goal, Marco Bizot. Obviously, Emi Martinez hit one of the nastiest WWE, could have won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania crossbodies against Manchester United on the last day of last season, so he's serving a suspension. I actually have no idea. I've seen so many people saying it's 3 games, it's 2 games, it's 1 game. I don't know how many games it is, but he is definitely not going to be playing against Newcastle. So Marco Bizot comes in and starts in goal. Now, at the left-back position, I've gone for Luca Digne. Ian Maatsen has got some pretty decent minutes in pre-season, but Unai Emery, as you've seen by the team that I've selected, he is just an awful creature of habit. And when he has a starting 11, he likes to generally stick to it and not rotate too much. He likes Luca Digne so much that we've organised a new, or arranged and agreed, a new 2-year contract extension for him. I think he's probably going to be our starting left-back at the start of the season as Maatsen continues his development under Unai Emery's tactical ideas. And then I've gone for Powell and Konsa at the back. You know, Mings has got a lot of time in pre-season. Bagard has got a lot of time in pre-season at those centre-back roles. But ultimately, again, Emery's going to go with who he trusts and who he likes. Pau Torres, the second most capped player under Unai Emery in his entire career. And Ezri Konsa, an ever-present under Emery as well. Those two making up the back two, both coming into the season fresh. Pau Torres with a point to prove. Now on the bench, it leaves us Maatsen and Mings and just Bagard for that right-footed centre-back backup option. We have no one else ready to go. We really need to sign a backup for Konsa, I think. And then over on the right-hand side of defence, Matty Cash. Andrés Garcia has been injured all pre-season, and there's talks that we might even be selling him. We've loaned out Kostan Nedeljkovic. He's gone. Kane Kessler-Hayden has been sold. So we really are just left with Cash. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tristan Rowe on the bench for this game. I don't anticipate he'll get any minutes unless Cash goes and gets a yellow card in like the first 10 minutes and then is playing on tenterhooks, which is likely because he loves an early yellow card. But I think Cash will probably get the 90 minutes in this game. In the midfield pivot, I've gone for Onana and Kamara, and that is purely to allow Tielemans to play further forward, and we're going to get into that in a little bit as well. In regards to the bench option, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Onana comes off a little bit later on in the game for an attacking option and Tielemans drops back. But I think he's going to allow Tielemans to play in that 10. Onana and Kamara both look very, very good in pre-season in those pivot roles. Kamara with his new contract, highest earner at Aston Villa, he's going to have a point to prove. And Onana, the 50 million price tag, it's about time he starts showing us that he was more than worth it. Now, in terms of the 3 in behind Watkins, we all know it's going to be Watkins starting up front. I've gone for John McGinn on the left-hand side, Yuri Tielemans in that number 10 role, and then Morgan Rogers. Everything is indicating that he will be playing this game. Obviously, picked up a knock towards the end of pre-season. However, all the reporters, Tanswell, Townley, all the big Villa boys have been confirming that he has been training with the team. It's not a serious injury, and we are very hopeful that he will be starting. If he is injured, then it changes things slightly, but I think this is how he will go. Now, why? Again, I say Emery is a creature of habit. This is the front 3 that I think suits him the best in terms of all 3 players know exactly how he wants them to play. John McGinn, obviously our captain, he probably has to fit him in somehow. Tielemans in the middle, then Rogers on the right. I know we don't like Rogers on the right, but I think this is purely going to be the way, because I don't think Marlon's going to get a start yet. I'm not sure Unai Emery completely trusts him fully. He did play a few games out on the right in pre-season, but then also played up front when Watkins wasn't playing. So I still think Emery's figuring out what he wants to do with him and where he's best. Evan Guasson has only played, 45, 50 minutes under Unai Emery so far. And we know that Emery likes to bed players in and take his time with players as well. So if Guasson was in there, maybe you could shuffle this front 3 around. If I thought that he was going to start Donyell Marlon, I might shuffle these front 3 around, but I just don't think he wants to trust them completely to start in the Premier League just yet. So I think he's going to play it safe. Now, it does leave us with Marlon and Guasson on the bench. So I think we could see maybe John McGinn be hooked around the 60th minute, 70th minute. Rogers go over to the left-hand side. Maybe Guasson come over to that right-hand side. Like I say, Onana maybe come off for Marlon or something like that and shuffle that around, drop Tielemans a little bit further back. We're going to have no Leon Bailey. That transfer is almost confirmed. So I think on the bench, again, you'll see those 2 aforementioned players, Guasson and Donyell Marlon. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see Jimo Alaba on the bench and getting a few minutes possibly in this game. In terms of those centre mid backups, I think you could even be seeing the likes of George Hemmings on the bench as Ross Barkley is still recovering from an injury. And it does leave our bench, unfortunately, a little bit threadbare. We were all kind of really happy about how strong our bench was last season, And I feel like we might have slightly taken a step backwards because I'm thinking about our squad and the play. There's going to be no Jacob Ramsey on the bench. He is off. So we're going to have a youth goalkeeper on the bench. I'm trying to think which ones we haven't loaned out. I think it might be Oliver Zich. I know he went out on loan to Poland. So I don't know who's going to be our backup goalkeeper because Joe Gauci has gone as well. So we're going to have a backup goalkeeper from the youth team. We're going to have Ian Matson, Tyrone Mings, great, 2 senior players. Lamar Bagard, effectively a senior player at this time. I feel like Tristan Rowe might be on the bench, although he might just keep Bagard for backup. But then again, you're having Lamar Bagard for backup for right back and centre back. Just a little bit dodgy, in my opinion. In terms of the centre mids, there's no indication that Ross Barkley's going to be back. I feel like you might be seeing the likes of George Hemmings even on the bench to cover that position. In terms of substitute wingers, you've got Marlon Guasson, and then we have no backup striker on the bench either. We've taken 5 steps forward in the last few years. I'm afraid this feels like a couple of steps back. In terms of Newcastle, this is the team that, like the FPL expert predictor, thinks that they're going to be putting out. And to be fair, looking at the injuries they do have, I believe he could be spot on with this one. Nick Pope in goal. I kind of hope that they start Aaron Ramsdale because that means that we might actually get a win here. But Livramento at left back, Shah and Byrne in the middle. Like I say, Botman coming back from an injury. Only got 45 against Atletico Madrid. I think they're going to bed him in slowly. And then Kieran Trippier starting at right back. Now, obviously, that could change. Byrne could play out on one of the full-back positions and Botman might be in there, which will make them a lot more secure. And then here's Newcastle's absolute strength, right? Joelinton, Tonali, Joelinton, Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes in midfield. Arguably one of the best midfield threes in the Premier League. I think one of the reasons they got Champions League, all 3 players are absolutely wonderful at football and at their positions. Did get overrun by Villa. We beat them 4-1 last time, let's not forget. And then up front, Anthony Gordon, the starting striker. This is where we are. We've been blessed a little bit against Newcastle because they've had an awful time in the transfer market, just like Aston Villa. Now, they have got Elanga, who has caused Villa no end of problems when he played for Nottingham Forest, and Harvey Barnes, who also has a good game against us nearly every time. I don't think they're going to register Jacob Ramsey in time, and he wouldn't get thrown in anyway at the deep end. But no Alexander Isak. One of the best strikers in the Premier League is literally on strike. Apparently it's unsettled and ruffled a few feathers in and amongst the Newcastle team. We need to take advantage of that. They've got Anthony Gordon, not a natural striker up front. I feel like Concert should be able to bully him quite easily. So that's where we need to take advantage of it. But how does the matchups work? Let's have a look. And here, as you can see, we've got both teams lined up and ready to go. Now, obviously, this isn't how we're going to be lined up. This is how we'd probably take the kickoff if it is Newcastle's. But Watkins is obviously going to be operating in and around Dan Burn and Shah in off of their shoulders. Now, if we just move everyone forward here to kind of how we might be defending and attacking in this game, then we can get a better idea of how this game might actually be going. Let's just say if Villa are attacking here, you'd imagine that Matty Cash will be right up here. Rogers will be in and around here. Again, McGinn will tuck in. Digne, we know Digne will get forward as well. Kamara will cover to the right as well here. Anana, Powell and Concert, kind of like that type deal here. If we just ignore the front three, let's say that Gordon's going to be the one playing off, and then Barnes and Elanga will move back in and help out with the defensive duty. So this is how I kind of assume it will be attacking wise. We know Kamara works back and covers Matty Cash when he does Foire forward. I think our danger for this game is going to be trying to get down this right-hand side. Newcastle's right-hand side, our left-hand side. Elanga, not the best defensively in terms of wingers. So here we'll have to be floating probably for an outlet ball. So Pau Torres are going to have to be alive to that one. But if we can overload McGinn and Digne down that Trippier side, he's not getting any younger. And I think McGinn's physicality and the way he can dribble a ball should actually help us out quite significantly there. And Rogers against Livramento and Shah, I like that matchup as well. And obviously Cash is going to be getting forward, which is going to leave us susceptible to that break of Joelinton and Harvey Barnes. So again, Kamara's going to have to be really, really alive to that. But you look at the actual matchups here. If we go back and have a look at the actual matchups of this game, it's not too bad for Aston Villa. Matty Cash is going to have to deal with Harvey Barnes. Gordon shared equally between Powell and Concert. I like that matchup for Aston Villa. Now, one that is slightly worrying, and perhaps it might be a reason why Maatsen might get the nod this game, I don't know, is Luca Digne versus Elanga. He's caused us problems in the past. We know he's rapid. He's great with the ball at his feet. That's going to be one to watch out for this game, how well we can deal with him down that side, especially with the fast, high press, octane football that Newcastle do play. Now, the middle three, this is a battle for the ages, right? Joelinton versus Kamara, Bruno versus Onana, and Tonali versus Tielemans. That is a battle for the ages. Probably two of the best midfield threes in the league going head to head. Now, Joelinton and Kamara, that's anyone's game. Onana and Bruno, for me, that's anyone's game. Tielemans is anyone's game. It's going to be who is on it on the day. And then in terms of what Newcastle have to deal with, Livramento and Shah have to deal with Rodgers, who generally won't go on the outside. He'll want to cut in and occupy that inside forward role. Same with McGinn. He is going to have to be occupied between Trippier and Dan Burn, which leaves Watkins to cause absolute mayhem. And I like the outlet of a long ball. We've seen Marco Bizot. His distribution is fantastic. If we can get Watkins on the shoulder of Dan Burn, Dan Burn's about 7'6", but he's not the quickest in the world, and neither is Fabian Schär. Fabian Schär susceptible to a yellow card early on in a game as well. So you really want Watkins playing on the shoulder of these two, trying to twist and turn in behind them to get onto those long balls. Nick Pope, not the most comfortable with the ball at his feet either. So if we can get those balls into no man's land for Watkins to run into, I'm thinking if we're on the ball, they're set up half, he's just playing off of the shoulder of Schär and Burn. If we can get the ball into this position here, and it's a foot race between Pope, Schär, Burn or Watkins, we could really kill Newcastle off. And there you have it. What is my prediction for tomorrow's game? It's a 12:30 kickoff under the bright lights of TNT Sports on Discovery Plus with BT. Genuinely, it's two teams that have been absolutely stifled by the Premier League's unfair sustainability, Premier League sustainable financial rules. Two teams that are pushing that top six for all of their might. Two of the top six finished in the bottom half of the table, actually 2 places above the relegation zone. However, they're still able to go out and spend 20,000 times more than us and Newcastle. Newcastle have the added stress of their star player going on strike to force a move to Liverpool. I'm sure this is a game Newcastle fans and Villa fans currently are very, very sympathetic with each other, because we both know the position we're in. We've got fantastic managers, fantastic squads, but we're overachieving for what the Premier League wants for us, so we're just being pegged back at every single opportunity by these rules. But nonetheless, above the politics of the financial fair play and SCR and UEFA regulations and all that stuff to make football fair, I think it's probably going to be a draw. I know we smashed them 4-1 at Villa Park last year, but I've been to a couple of Newcastle games, Villa versus Newcastle, and obviously watched the games when we're away, because it generally gets selected for TV. So I think pretty sure they say that all the Sky and BT executives can laugh at the two kids trying to make a bit of a noise on the block, but being pushed back down. And Newcastle played really, really well against us. And Villa, historically, have not dealt very well with Newcastle's high press. We get caught out by teams that high press a lot. So we're going to have to be on it to get another victory. Again, the 4-1, I think, was a bit of an outlier in terms of us and Newcastle. And I think it's going to be a draw. We're both coming into the game with roughly the same squads as last season. I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go for 2-2. Villa always concede goals at the moment. Again, last season's defensive record doesn't fill me with much joy. But again, Newcastle, hopefully not without Botman, an ageing fullback in Trippier that we might be able to take advantage of, and Ollie Watkins should have bundles of joy against Schär and Burn, because he looks really, really sharp. So I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to go Ollie Watkins and... who should we go for the second goal scorer? Ollie Watkins and Yuri Tielemans to get the goals, with an assist from Donyell Marlon, who will come off the bench, and Morgan Rogers. And I think that Anthony Gordon and Elanga might get the goals for Newcastle. What do you think? Comment down below, and there will be a match review on Sunday, hopefully, or Monday, when I can get that filmed. And I hope I'm sitting here saying I was wrong. We've won 5-0 up the Villa.